A 10-second penalty that shocked the world. A leaked FIA document that changes everything. A champion who stood tall in the face of injustice. And now we finally know what really happened to Lewis Hamilton in Mexico. When the lights went out on Sunday, Hamilton's start was perfect. Smooth, aggressive, fearless. He dived into turn 1 between the McLarens and Red Bulls, finding grip where others found chaos. For a brief moment, the red car gleamed in the Mexican sun as if destiny had returned. But Formula One can be cruel in its timing. Just 5 laps later, a duel with his old rival Max Verstappen would ignite one of the most controversial decisions the FIA has made in years, a decision that would reshape not only Hamilton's race, but the narrative of fairness itself. The first wave of confusion hit almost instantly. As the Ferrari and the Red Bull clashed through the opening corners, both cars went off track. Hamilton rejoined safely, still ahead, while Verstappen lost momentum behind. The crowd roared. It was racing at its rawest. Yet within minutes, the screens in every garage flashed the words that would change the afternoon. Car 44 under investigation. No one could quite believe it. To millions watching, it looked like wheel-to-wheel brilliance. To the stewards, it was something else. Behind the scenes, tension began to rise. Ferrari engineers pored over data, convinced that Hamilton had lost time, not gained it. Onboard cameras showed him wrestling the car through the dust, controlling a slide with the reflexes of a man who has seen it all. He hadn't forced the issue, he'd simply survived it. But survival, it seemed, was not enough to satisfy the rule book. 10 laps later came the verdict, a 10-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining advantage. It was a phrase that sounded clinical, detached, almost robotic. For Hamilton, it was heartbreak delivered in bureaucratic language. And yet, even in that moment, he was the picture of composure. His voice came over the radio comm, but firm. That's ridiculous. I had nowhere to go. There was frustration, of course, but no loss of control. The very trait that made Hamilton great, his ability to remain measured under pressure, was on full display. While others might have erupted, he breathed, recalibrated, and went back to work. Because that's what champions do. They don't dwell on injustice, they turn it into fuel. The leak did not come from rumor or speculation. It came from within. A document marked confidential, Race Stewarding Report Mexico City GP began circulating quietly among journalists early Monday morning. Within hours, excerpts appeared in the British press, and for the first time, the world could read the FIA's own words on what happened to Lewis Hamilton. What those pages revealed wasn't just a ruling. It was hesitation. It was uncertainty. And it was the kind of internal division that Formula One fans had long suspected but rarely seen in writing. According to the report, 3 stewards voted in favor of the penalty, 1 against. The dissenting voice, whose identity remains undisclosed, argued that Hamilton had been forced wide under direct contact and had no reasonable path to comply with the designated re-entry route. That statement alone rewrote the entire narrative. It meant that even inside the FIA, not everyone believed Hamilton had done anything wrong. The document also confirmed that the steward's room had referenced multiple camera angles, GPS overlays, and throttle traces, but none conclusively proved that Hamilton had gained time. In fact, Ferrari's telemetry later showed that he lost 0.2 of a second in the sequence. The public hadn't been told that. The broadcast graphics simply showed a 10-second penalty without context, leaving millions to assume guilt. But buried deep in that report was a line that changed everything. Driver 44's re-entry maneuver maintained, but did not enhance his position. In the cautious language of bureaucracy, that sentence was an admission Hamilton had not cheated. He had simply survived. And yet, he paid the price. What made the revelation even more explosive was the comparison within the report to Verstappen's maneuver in Turn 2, the very incident that had triggered Hamilton's off-track excursion. The FIA's own video analysis noted that both cars left the circuit within the same competitive sequence. Still, Verstappen received no penalty. To Hamilton's supporters, the inconsistency was glaring. To his critics, it was indefensible. And to Hamilton himself, it was familiar, another case of rules that seemed to shift depending on who was under the microscope. But Lewis Hamilton has never been a man defined by outrage. His response, once again, was one of balance. While the world debated online, he stayed silent, allowing the facts to breathe. Inside Ferrari's garage, his engineers described his mood as stoic, almost philosophical. He reviewed his own data traces late into the night, then sent a quiet message to the team chat: "We know the truth, keep working." That, more than anything, summed up the man. Where others chase headlines, he chases understanding. By the time the FIA confirmed the authenticity of the leaked report, the damage was already done. The story had transcended racing. It had become a symbol, a debate about fairness, integrity, and how Formula One treats its greatest champion. For British fans, it reignited memories of Hamilton's most defiant moments: Silverstone 2008, Sao Paulo 2021, Abu Dhabi 2021 moments when he faced adversity not with anger, but with composure. And now, Mexico 2025 would join that list. Another scar on the record, perhaps, but also another reminder of why Lewis Hamilton's legacy endures beyond trophies. To truly understand what happened to Lewis Hamilton in Mexico, one must look beyond the headlines, beyond the 10-second penalty, beyond the political noise, and into the technical truth. The FIA's own data, now public through the leaked report, tells a story not of recklessness, but of instinct and precision. As Hamilton approached turn 1 on lap 6, his Ferrari was locked in battle with Max Verstappen's Red Bull. Two veterans of Formula One's modern age, two masters of control, both fighting for the same sliver of tarmac. And then, in a heartbeat, physics took over. Verstappen, on the inside line, carried too much entry, speed, a familiar aggression that has defined his style. The Red Bull made light contact with Hamilton's front left wheel, unsettling the Ferrari just as it reached the apex. For a car traveling at nearly 290 kilometers per hour, that nudge was enough to send it onto the marbles, where grip simply ceases to exist. Hamilton locked the tire, caught the slide, and kept control, but there was no physical way to make the corner without leaving the track. The telemetry showed it clearly: a spike in brake pressure, a drop in steering angle, and then the unmistakable signal of four wheels crossing white paint. What happened next was not opportunism. It was survival. With Verstappen still half alongside, and the escape road narrowing rapidly, Hamilton chose the safest and most logical route straight through the runoff, rejoining ahead of the Red Bull rather than risking a collision. It was the same line used by countless drivers before him, including Verstappen himself just laps earlier. The crucial point, though, lay in the numbers. Ferrari's engineers later revealed that Hamilton's car lost 0.2 of a second through that section compared to his previous lap. In other words, he hadn't gained time. He had avoided disaster. The FIA's report referenced that same telemetry, but interpreted it differently, claiming that because Hamilton had rejoined ahead, he had retained track position, constituting a lasting advantage. Yet one steward, the dissenting voice in the document, disagreed. His notes read, "Driver 44 lost momentum due to the off-track excursion. Rejoining ahead was the natural consequence of relative car positions, not a deliberate advantage." It was as close to an internal disagreement as Formula One's rulebook ever allows. And it revealed what Hamilton himself had felt in the cockpit, that he had been judged not for what he did, but for what it looked like. Inside Ferrari, the technical team reconstructed the entire incident in simulation. The results were irrefutable. Had Hamilton taken the FIA's designated re-entry channel, he would have rejoined nearly 5 seconds behind Verstappen. Not because of intent, but because that safety lane was designed for solo mistakes, not wheel-to-wheel combat. Lewis made the only logical decision, said team principal Fred Vasseur in a quiet debrief. He stayed safe, stayed clean, and avoided contact. That should be rewarded, not punished. His words echoed the sentiment of an entire paddock tired of inconsistency, of frustration that Hamilton has faced more than most. To the untrained eye, it might have looked like Hamilton cut the corner. But to those who know the sport's technical depth, the engineers, the strategists, the stewards who have raced themselves, the data tells a different story. Hamilton's throttle trace, brake modulation, and steering input were all controlled, deliberate, and defensive. There was no spike, no aggression, no attempt to exploit the situation. It was the decision of a veteran who has spent 2 decades balancing instinct with reason. He didn't chase advantage. He protected survival. And that's where the heart of the controversy lies. When the FIA's own report admits that driver 44 was placed in an impossible position, it's not just a bureaucratic footnote. It's a confession. The system asked for perfection where physics made it impossible. And yet, even under those impossible circumstances, Lewis Hamilton still managed to look composed, professional, and fast. In a sport obsessed with milliseconds, he had proven once again that his greatest asset isn't speed, it's judgment.